Mars, humanity's next frontier. Picture this. Within your lifetime, the first child could be born on another world. Not in a science fiction movie, not in a distant fantasy, but in a real colony 140 million miles from Earth, under a sky tinted orange-red. The countdown to becoming an interplanetary civilization has already begun. For billions of years, life on Earth existed on a single fragile planet. Every species that ever lived, every empire that ever rose and fell, was confined to this one rocky sphere orbiting an average star. But sometime this century, that reality may change forever. At the center of this transformation stands one of the most controversial technological pursuits of our time, the plan to establish a permanent human settlement on Mars. And while multiple space agencies and private companies have outlined strategies for reaching the red planet, the most ambitious vision comes from SpaceX, the aerospace manufacturer founded with a singular purpose: to make life multiplanetary. The driving philosophy behind this effort is deceptively simple. Earth has faced 5 mass extinction events: asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages. Our planet's history is written in catastrophe. And today we face threats our ancestors never imagined: climate instability, nuclear arsenals, engineered pandemics. According to proponents of Mars colonization, humanity needs a backup plan. Not because Earth is disposable, but because existence itself is precious enough to protect across multiple worlds. The technological challenge: getting to Mars isn't the hard part. And NASA's rovers have been landing there for decades. The real challenge is transporting enough people and cargo to build something that can survive without constant resupply from Earth. This is where revolutionary engineering comes into play. At the heart of current Mars colonization plans sits a vehicle unlike anything in aerospace history: a fully reusable, super heavy launch system designed to carry over 100 tons of cargo or 100 passengers per flight. Traditional rockets are thrown away after a single use, making each launch cost hundreds of millions of dollars. But by recovering and rapidly reusing rocket boosters and spacecraft, engineers believe they can reduce the price of a Mars ticket from billions per person to potentially hundreds of thousands. The key innovation: refueling in orbit. Think of it as a cosmic gas station. A spacecraft launches from Earth, parks in orbit, and then receives multiple tanker flights that fill its propellant tanks. Once fully fueled, it has enough energy to break free from Earth's gravity and make the months-long journey to Mars. But the engineering doesn't stop at transportation. Mars is a hostile environment. Temperatures average minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, and radiation bombards the surface without Earth's protective magnetic field. Early settlers would need to extract water from underground ice, generate oxygen from the Martian atmosphere, produce rocket fuel locally for return trips, and construct habitats that can withstand dust storms lasting months. According to available SpaceX documentation, the strategy involves waves of increasingly large missions. Our initial flights would be unmanned, delivering equipment and supplies. Robotic systems, potentially including humanoid robots, would begin preparing landing pads, setting up solar arrays, and establishing basic infrastructure before the first humans ever set foot on Martian soil. Timeline and turning points. The path to Mars colonization follows Earth's orbital mechanics. Launch windows, periods when Earth and Mars are optimally aligned, open roughly every 26 months. This celestial calendar dictates the entire timeline. According to recent announcements, the first uncrewed demonstration missions could launch as early as 2026, though this depends on successfully testing orbital refueling technology. If these initial flights prove the systems work, crewed missions might follow within 3 to 4 years. The proposed escalation is dramatic. No early plans suggest 5 flights during the first launch window, carrying approximately 10 tons each. By the next window, that could expand to 20 missions, delivering 75 tons of payload per flight. Within a decade, mission planners envision hundreds of spacecraft departing Earth during each window, ferrying thousands of tons of equipment and building materials. The target: a settlement in a region called Arcadia Planitia, a relatively flat volcanic plain in Mars's northern hemisphere, where subsurface ice lies mere inches below the surface. The combination of accessible water, moderate latitude for solar power, and smooth terrain makes it a leading candidate for humanity's first foothold on another planet. But these timelines come with massive uncertainty. Space exploration rarely unfolds as planned. Technical challenges emerge. Systems fail. Designs require fundamental rethinking. Even the most optimistic projections acknowledge enormous risk. Human implications. If successful, Mars colonization would represent more than an engineering triumph. It would fundamentally reshape what it means to be human. Consider the scale required. Experts estimate that a truly self-sustaining Martian city, one that doesn't depend on Earth for survival, might need upwards of 1 million inhabitants. That's not a research outpost. That's a new branch of civilization. The first generations of Martian settlers would face extraordinary hardships, limited living space, recycled everything, years away from friends and family on Earth. The psychological toll of isolation in an environment where stepping outside without a spacesuit means death within minutes. It would require volunteers who view these dangers not as deterrents, but as the price of the greatest adventure in human history. Yet the potential rewards extend beyond survival insurance. Mars could become a laboratory for solving problems we face on Earth. Closed-loop life support systems, advanced agriculture in extreme environments, new approaches to energy and resource management, technologies developed for Mars might transform how we live on our home planet. There's also a philosophical dimension. For the first time in human history, we would have the option to answer a fundamental question. What kind of society would we build if we could start fresh? A Martian settlement would need to establish its own systems of governance, resource allocation, and social organization. The choices made there could influence human civilization for centuries. The broader debate, not everyone shares the enthusiasm for Mars colonization. Critics raise valid concerns. Some question whether we should invest enormous resources in settling another planet when Earth faces urgent challenges: poverty, disease, environmental degradation. Others point out that Mars will likely remain hostile to human life for centuries, possibly millennia, even with our best technology. Unlike the optimistic visions of science fiction, Mars won't have breathable air or comfortable temperatures in our lifetimes. There are ethical considerations too. What responsibilities do we have to preserve Mars in its natural state? Do we have the right to fundamentally alter another world? And what about the practical challenges of establishing fair governance systems when initial settlement will likely be funded and controlled by private corporations or wealthy nations? Then there's the simple matter of feasibility. The proposed timelines require technological breakthroughs that haven't yet been demonstrated. Orbital refueling at the scale required has never been attempted. Long-term human health effects of Martian gravity, about 1/3 of Earth's, remain unknown. The logistics of supplying a distant colony during its vulnerable early years could prove overwhelming. Conclusion. The lesson. Whether or not Mars colonization succeeds on the proposed timeline, or at all, the effort itself reveals something profound about human nature. We are a species that explores, that pushes boundaries, that looks at impossible challenges and asks, what if? From the first humans who left Africa to explore an unknown world, to the sailors who crossed vast oceans toward uncertain shores, to the astronauts who left footprints on the moon, we have always been driven by a desire to see what lies beyond the horizon. The Mars colonization plan, in its essence, is a bet on human potential, a wager that our capacity for innovation, cooperation, and determination can overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable. It's a statement that our story doesn't have to end on a single planet, at the mercy of a single catastrophic event. But it's also a reminder of something more immediate. The same technologies and mindsets required to settle Mars, sustainable resource use, closed-loop systems, cooperative problem-solving, are exactly what we need to address challenges here on Earth. Perhaps the most valuable outcome of reaching for Mars isn't the destination itself, but what we become in the attempt. The question isn't whether humans will set foot on Mars. That seems increasingly inevitable. The real question is what we'll choose to do once we get there. Will we simply recreate the patterns and problems of Earth? Or will Mars become something better? Proof that humanity can learn, adapt, and build a future worthy of the stars? One thing is certain, the choices we make in the next decade will determine whether our grandchildren live on one world or two. And that makes this moment unlike any other in human history.